All right then. It's lovely to see you all. My name is Joel Nicholas and I'm the youth minister at Gorebridge Parish Church, which is just south of Edinburgh. In fact, if you were in the city, you'd see some buses that were travelling here. We're like the end of the bus route. So we can see Edinburgh, but we're slightly outside of it. I've been asked by Rain if I would come on here and talk about our summer program that we just ran and how that converts into discipleship afterwards. First, some background on me. I am actually a Rain alumni. I was part of the class of 2017 when I graduated and had an amazing time studying under the likes of Kyle and Darren and Alison and others as well, and learning so much about youth ministry from them that while I was doing it, I actually had my placement here at this selfsame church, which is actually the one I've grown up at since I was something like 6 years old. So been here about 20 years, which has been amazing. At the time, the youth minister was in charge. He was called Ross, and then he left a year ago and I took over. This year was our first year where it was normal. I imagine many of you can relate. No lockdown, no restrictions, and it was awesome. But it took a while to get there. And we had a couple of years of trying to do things online and trying different ways of getting around the restrictions, not trying to break them, but, work with them to still deliver something. This year, the first normal year in 2 years. And we run an event called Stage and Slam, which is actually something we've been doing for 10, in fact, now maybe about 12 years. We started in 2010 when I was a young person at it. And it was over in Edinburgh that we were doing it. In fact, it's still running there. But after many years of helping run it there, we decided here at Gorebridge to do our own one in our town in 2019. And so this year was our second year doing it here properly. And it's an incredible event. It's the kind of thing that some of you might have experience of. It's called a day camp. And what that means is that the young people come to us at about 1 o'clock, give or take. They do incredible activities with us, ranging from football to stage makeup to improv to basketball. And then they leave at 8 p.m. having heard a talk about Jesus that's of a foundational level. In fact, this is key for Stage and Slam, that we assume if you come to it, unless we know you're a Christian, that you know nothing. Stage and Slam is designed for the furthest out kid who doesn't know a single piece of information about the gospel. And so as we talk to them about Jesus, we explain the issue of sin that separates us from God and how Jesus restored us back to right relationship, or at least restored our ability to make that choice. And then if the kids want to, they get to make that choice. Stage and Slam isn't the only thing we do. In other years, we've ran camps as well. This year in particular, we went to a place called Canty Bay, which is a beach essentially, and a few buildings that are mostly dedicated to scout camps. But a guy in our church runs it, and so he offered it to us. So we took some young people there to learn about prayer. This was more Christian orientated. And then even from that, we had our own group go to a place called Teen Ranch, which is a place that's been established in Scotland for the last 35 years, seeing people come in and learn about the gospel while doing things like riding horses. So all in all, quite different experiences, and each of these things having similar kids go to it, but still different ones at each. Now, our summer program is busy. That's 4 different events we ran this year. And it's tiring, sure, but the brilliant thing about doing this is that because you are there with your young people, you get to build relationships in an intense environment quicker than you probably would in other contexts. In fact, it's one of the things that was said to me that Stage and Slam, or things like it, are like almost speed dating relationships. You learn a lot about someone else really fast. So, what does that mean? Well, one of the things that Rain was excellent at teaching me, and I learned from the guys who taught me here at this church as well, was that if you're going to deliver an effective ministry, relational youth work is the key. And by the way, that's the case for any kind of ministry. It's not just limited to youth work. We believe this because Jesus did it himself. If we see the way he interacts with his followers in the Gospels, we can see that he had, sure enough, his disciples, people who followed him. Then he had the 12 apostles, and he had 3 that he was absolutely invested in. They were like his closest inner circle. And these people were, all of them, people who he had looked at some point and said, hey, come follow me. And then because they actually did that, they got to see Jesus up close and personal. And then what did they see? They got to see Jesus' relationship with his Father up close and personal. And that's what we get to do as leaders. When I have a young person at Stage and Slam, and I'm playing basketball with them or letting them throw a flower bomb in my face, and then I react in a way that's probably quite different to how other adults have reacted in their lives, I get to demonstrate the love of Jesus in that moment to that kid. And then, hopefully, through their interactions with me, they get to experience Jesus' love in a way that they may not have been able to understand before. See, we are, in some cases, these young people's first interaction with Jesus in their whole lives that they've even been remotely aware of. This is the key, is building relationships. And it would appear that this is, again, something that God has asked us to do. He doesn't just want us to build an event that's great. Though Stage and Slam, in my opinion, it's my favorite week of the year for what we do. I have so much fun at it. It's not about building a great event. It's about having those moments with young people and your other leaders, by the way, where you get to build memories together, show them what it means to love your enemies, forgive and say sorry. And then through all of that, you get a touch of heaven. Okay, so that's all great, but then what do you do? Well, you have to translate that into the work for the rest of the year. Because if you just have that one moment in the summer where things are great, and then you don't do anything afterwards, you have created essentially spiritual orphans. And I'm guilty of that. I've definitely done that in the past and had to learn from those mistakes. So what do? Well, we had Stage and Slam, and then it was Canty Bay, where we had that weekend away that I said was for more Christians. And so we were able to take a number of those kids who came to Stage and Slam and then plug them into a thing where we're like, let's teach you how to pray and start building upon the foundations of what they got at Stage and Slam. And then, once the schools kick off again, we restart our normal weekly activity in the form of what we call Clan. Specifically Clan mentoring. Clan's the name of our youth work. And that's a Monday night where kids come and we discuss what it means to look like a Jesus follower. And that also takes on different forms. It can be a bonfire. It can be going out for meals. It can be a teaching night, a Q&A session. We actually convert it into Youth Alpha from January to Easter every year. All with the idea of continuing to build those relationships. And then we ask our leaders, hey, who is it that you had a key relationship with at some point or other, as in with the young people? And then from those relationships, we establish who are ready for discipleship. Now, quick note. We at this church use the phrases discipleship and mentoring interchangeably. And that's really because for some young people, they're probably not ready for what you would imagine discipleship to be. And in fact, that's a word that they would maybe be a bit turned off by. They're only just on the cusp of their walk with Jesus and building a relationship with him. So we use the word mentoring. That seems to cover that gap. So we ask our leaders, hey, who do you have that key relationship with? And then we say, do you feel like you're in a position to mentor them? And if the answer is yes, then we ask each of our leaders to find 3 of those young people that they will invest in specifically. Even though I'm the youth minister and I'm paid to do this job, I can't feasibly have a deep, intimate relationship with all of them. Even if you had 20 in your youth group, that would just be impossible, 10 even. really follow Jesus's model, he had 3 that were specific. And so we ask each of our leaders to replicate that. And the results are that as those young people have relationships that are built with those leaders, inevitably those leaders' relationships with Jesus will start to impart themselves onto that young person as they have that model. And then, as time goes on and as they stick around, hopefully, doesn't always happen, then that's your next generation of leader. And it grows. And once they're at a stage where they get it, they'll start telling their friends about Jesus. And then you've got a multiplication thing going on there. Here's the thing though, to reiterate, your summer program is great. For us, it's the climax of an entire year's worth of work. I actually have a rule which says if you want to come lead at one of our summer programs, you have to have been in attendance at some point during the year. And the reason why is because if you build a relationship with a young person during, say, Stage and Slam, and then you're not there the rest of the year, then that's another example of potentially creating spiritual orphans. And we don't want to do that. We want to love these guys. That doesn't mean you can't come and help. It just means that we maybe need to reorient what your role is. So for us, be there through the year, and then when the big event comes along in the summer, you've already done the majority of the work. This event is just a tip over the edge. And then we get to see the kingdom grow. It's worked for us, and I think it's biblical. From what I can see, it's held up. And it's something that I'll continue to pray and ask God's guidance and listen to what the Holy Spirit is saying about how we need to improve it in the future. And maybe take some things away if we've become too focused on the event. But so far, so good. And I pray that for yourself, and as you're considering how you convert your summer activities into discipleship, you'll also hear what the Holy Spirit is saying and how you can build relationships with young people and ultimately grow this kingdom. Thank you.